Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. I am your embattled host, Lou Stump, alongside my brothers in arms, Chet Lifkit and Joey Donati. It's been a tough couple weeks. If it was just the anniversary of 9/11, that alone would be enough of a reminder to all of us that this world is deeply marked by evil. We had planned to do a full deep dive on 9/11 today, but much like the rest of you, the assassination of Charlie Kirk affected us more than any major event in recent memory. Now, why did this tragedy shake humanity to its core? Because Charlie was an outspoken follower of Christ. He lived and died for his Christian faith. It doesn't matter where you land on his politics and methods. Charlie Kirk was seeking to live for Jesus the best way he knew how, and he got killed seeking to do that. And because of that, it should hit home in a unique way, especially for Christians. Charlie had a sincere belief in humanity. He truly believed that all people are God's chosen people and that everyone could be redeemed. He believed that if he just talked to people, maybe they would see themselves as God does. Maybe they would accept themselves as God had created them. Maybe he could change their minds. Charlie's infectious optimism was true power that money cannot buy. His positivity alone was more threatening to the donor class than the more polarizing provocateurs in independent conservative media. On a deeper level, the assassination of Charlie Kirk shook the souls of humanity because it illuminated a common enemy. The weight of this act of violence was felt across the political spectrum. Why? Because we all have something inside of us that tells us the truth. We know on a basic animal level when something is wrong. We all reached an innate consensus that what happened to Charlie Kirk was wrong. It wasn't political, it was spiritual. What happened to Charlie transcended the boundaries of left and right. The political lines have blurred, and the real battle is between good and evil. We at the Nimrod Pod feel that we have a duty to spotlight this issue until the forces that took Charlie from us are politically, nonviolently, and lovingly eradicated from common society. And with that being said, I'd like to solicit initial reactions from my fellow Nimrods, the experts on this podcast.
There's the mainstream story that came out. You can almost always just disregard that at this point. Fuck. The first old guy that they pulled down on the ground. What a ridiculous thing to start saying right away. This is the shooter. He did it. And then they got this second guy with the transgender girlfriend, and and the, they're trying to paint him as one of Nick Fuentes's groypers. Utterly ridiculous. I know we're going to dive into some of the evidence today, but I just want to say whoever is behind this, it's obviously a last ditch effort. You know, they killed Charlie, who was honestly right in the middle of the political spectrum. You know, he wasn't the most extreme. He didn't hold any like fascist authoritarian viewpoints. So they killed the guy in the middle for some reason, and that's in turn going to push a lot of people to the right. So that's kind of what we're seeing now.
And real quick, they throw out those words fascist and racist, yet they heard them from, for example, Jimmy Kimmel on the news. Their sources are fucking terrible. And when you ask them for an example, they won't give you one. So that's why I take none of them seriously till they could bring up evidence and facts. You're a fucking loser. Shut the fuck up.
People are getting too caught up in the black and white. They want to blame it on someone or some group. And the truth of the matter is, we can't blame this on just the left. We can't just blame this on the Zionist donors and the secular government of Israel. We can't blame it on the neocons. This is truly a battle of good and evil. It is a spiritual war that has been brought to the forefront. We've been fighting this battle for so long, and for the first time, all of humanity with a soul recognized it at once in one single moment. The one group that is especially targeted are Christians. Why Christianity? It's the world's only true nonviolent religion. Why would you attack Christians? Well, I'll tell you one thing, nobody wants to be told that you aren't allowed to do something, and Christianity states clearly what you can and cannot do. If I'm someone in power, I don't like being told what to do. Every human being has a soul, according to Christianity, which makes Christianity the only universalist faith. Every other religion divides people into ethnic groups and religious groups. They want to be on the same side as people that look like them or think like them, when under the shield of Jesus Christ, we are all the same. We were all created as God's chosen people. We all bleed the same color. So why is this a wake-up call? It's because Charlie Kirk was an outspoken Christian, and he was killed for spreading the gospel. Christianity requires free will. If I'm someone who wants to establish a one world government, a police state, a surveillance state, and a central bank digital currency, I would have a problem with free will. This is truly a battle of good and evil. I keep saying this over and over again. And evil is not one group. Evil is the trans, the lunatic leftists, the neocons, the Zionists, and in summary, it's the people in power. And we can keep pointing our fingers, and I see all of the evil groups pointing the fingers at each other, like the little Spider-Man meme. And it just goes to show who really is guilty. Regardless of who pulled the trigger, all of these groups are equally guilty. I've seen Benjamin Netanyahu do more than 2 interviews on national American television to say Israel did not kill Charlie Kirk. Who said Israel killed Charlie Kirk that isn't on the fringe right wing like a Stu Peters or a Dan Bilzerian? Nobody. But we're being told by every major media outlet that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, two of the biggest voices in conservative media, are blaming Charlie Kirk's death on Israel. And that is on every front a lie. Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are simultaneously talking about 2 things. One thing is that the mainstream narrative of what happened to Charlie does not add up. There is clearly some sort of cover up, or at the bare minimum, we aren't getting full transparency to the truth. And then on the other hand, we're being told that leading up to Charlie's death, he was being pressured by Zionist donors because he was pro-life. And he had a problem with killing children in the womb and outside of the womb in Gaza, in the Middle East. And he didn't want to support these endless wars, and he didn't want to spend American tax dollars and use his platform to lift up people who are being unholy. These are 2 separate things. Why do we dive into what was happening with the donor pressures leading up to his death? Well, it's because within 30 minutes of Charlie Kirk's death, Bibi Netanyahu, in the middle of these 7 front wars that he's fighting, he picks up his phone and starts tweeting and says, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. He is the greatest defender of Israel. He told me that he lived and died for Israel. His life's mission was to bring people onto the side of Israel and glorify the Jewish people because Israel is God, Israel is king. He says this within 30 minutes of Charlie Kirk's death. He actually starts talking about Charlie in the past tense before Donald Trump even announces that Charlie Kirk is dead. He used Charlie Kirk's death as an opportunity to twist his point of view. Charlie wasn't here to defend himself, so he decided to speak for Charlie Kirk and use his enormous platform and the weight of his death that has clearly shook the entire world, all of humanity with a soul, and try to trick us into supporting Israel. So that's why Tucker and Candace talked about the pressures that Charlie Kirk had behind closed doors with his donors, Zionist donors. That's why they brought it up. They wouldn't have brought it up if Bibi Netanyahu didn't politicize the death of a great man. So they're simultaneously talking about donor pressures from Zionists before his death and how the government's covering up the facts behind his assassination. These are two separate things. They're not anti-Semitic. These are two separate things. And that's why the Zionists are evil and the neocons are evil. But then we have a whole other slew of absolute psychopaths on the left that are enacting the Podesta plan because Trump won and the indictments are happening. The subpoenas are open. The grand juries are open. And they're going to go to jail. They're going to go to jail and they're going to be exposed and they're never, ever going to be allowed back in power. So what do? They are sowing chaos. They want a civil war in America because then they can secede all the blue states and cities from the Union, break apart the American hegemony, and use their partners in communist China and the European Union and every other non-Christian oligarchy, and they can come in and take over America that way. The Podesta plan was put in place so that if Donald Trump got in power, they could overthrow their government. They could turn the people against him, and they could get back in power. But now it's all out there. And we know these leftists are evil. We see these regular, brainwashed, drugged up, lunatic trans people on the street saying, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. We see them defacing these beautiful murals of Charlie Kirk. We see them threatening to kill Christians. We see them threatening to kill conservatives because of the way they think and the way they speak. So yeah, these leftists are evil. These trans people are cutting their testicles off, and they want to cut your children's testicles off. And they want to eat them with a fork and knife like a fucking steak dinner at Texas Roadhouse. They're evil. The Zionists are evil, the neocons are evil, the leftists are evil, the trans are evil. They're all evil, and we are good. And that's why they hate us. That's why they hated Charlie, and that's why they killed him. So we need to use this moment to eradicate the evil in this world, non-violently, because that is what Christ told us to do. Notice how George Floyd ODs on fentanyl, and then every major blue city in the country is engulfed in flames and destroyed, and to this day has not recovered. Charlie Kirk dies and has an even more visceral reaction by the American public on the global stage. And we see church attendance records broken all over the country. Some people go to church every Sunday, but some people were shaken into church this week. That is powerful. That is so powerful. I don't want to get too off track, but in Genesis chapter 3, we're introduced to the villain in God's story. It's Satan. And Satan only needs 3 lies. God is not good. Satan tells Eve, did God actually say you can't eat from the midst of the garden? That is Satan mocking God. God is not good. The second one is you don't need God because you can be God. In verse 3, Eve decides for herself what is good, but only God declares what is good. You don't need God because you can be God. And third, there are no consequences. And clearly, if you don't have a conscience, if you don't have that voice in your head that tells you the truth, there are no consequences because you don't realize that life is supposed to be infinite and there's something after death that lasts forever. I'm not going to keep talking. I kind of just did a big unscripted rant, but this needs to be the topic of every conversation until these people are removed from common society.
It's all part of the same plan. Like they're sowing chaos. It's the last throes before their inevitable death, their inevitable removal. People are waking up. It's not looking good for the deep state. It's not looking good for Israel. It's not looking good for leftists. People are finding out that they're evil. People are recognizing that we're good. People are recognizing they're flocking to the churches. They're recognizing what real good is in the world. So my question is, if we want to go about it non-violently, how can we compete with the people that are able to use violence because they don't even care? How are we able to get people out of power non-violently when they're willing to kill us, as you can see by Charlie Kirk? Like that's a symbol. It's not Charlie Kirk. It's you. It's everybody. It's anybody who speaks out like that. Anybody who opposes their doctrines. It's the symbol. So like what could our plan even be at this point? Hang on? I don't know. What do you think, Detective Donati?
Stay clear of them. We have to remove ourselves from anywhere they might be, but they're going to come after us. They're going to come after people like us, bigger voices. We're in a dangerous spot. At the end of the day, we are true children of God. And a lot of these Christians who are speaking out and actually celebrating, they think it's a good thing, and they're still Christians. Seen a lot of that recently. That's the difference. That goes back to the good and evil thing Lou was talking about. Whenever I need reassurance that I'm on the right side, they give me 2 reminders a day, at least.
I just want to quickly counter something you just said. You said we need to remove ourselves from places these people are. No, 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 no. We need to remove them from places that we are. God created this earth. We are God's people, and we must eradicate Satan from the premises. We don't evacuate. We don't keep fleeing the cities and getting further and further and further away from the urban areas because they're unsafe to live because of the Soros judges. That's not how Christians act. Christians proclaim their faith unashamedly. They are courageous. They are courageously faithful. We need to step up. You should condemn the violence. Those who don't condemn the violence and encourage the violence should be named and shamed, not canceled, named and shamed so that everyone knows who the fuck they are. And if they will not condemn the violence or apologize for the lack thereof, they are just as bad as the people that are openly saying it. What you can do is you can get involved in politics tomorrow. As soon as you're done listening to this podcast, you should get involved. We are in this struggle until we win or we die. So pick up your shield and you either come back with it or on it. It's pretty simple. You can get involved with politics locally. You could shoot for the stars and run for state government, Congress. You could run for federal government, but you don't even have to think that big. You can start volunteering at your church. You can start going to school board meetings. You can start speaking openly with your neighbor. You can reconnect with that relative that you haven't talked to in 10 years, and you can bring them into the fold. You can stand up when you see someone committing an act of evil, and you can condemn it. And you can actually bring sinners back into the light and save them. There's so much that we can do, but Christians are afraid to proclaim their faith and practice their faith because we have been shamed into submission for the past 3 decades. It's time to wake the fuck up, speak unashamedly, and walk around as unafraid as the radical left has been for our entire lives. That's how we have to act, except for we're not walking around saying we should chop kids' penises off. We're walking around saying Christ is king. Violence is never the option. Marriage is sacred, and we should all start families, and we should love one another, and we should forgive people, and we should have humility. That's what we should be proclaiming unashamedly, not saying that we should go make out with dudes and wear short skirts with our balls hanging out. No, that's not what we're supposed to do. So we're going to be unashamedly white Christian conservatives. And if anybody has a problem with that, we will eradicate them from society, politically, nonviolently, and lovingly, because that's what Christ commands you to do. Christ commands you to leave a legacy, not to live a safe life. Jesus is calling us all into a life of courage. He wants high risk, high reward lifestyles. He wants you to leave a legacy. He wants you to change the world and have an eternal impact. A ship at harbor is safe, but that's not what ships were built for, gentlemen. Don't live a casual life. Be radical. They've been calling us radical our whole lives because we go to church, because we don't think 2 boys should get married and adopt homeless children. Courageous faith is uncensored faith. We need to be uncensored. We need to be radical. And we need to have no shame doing it. That is the answer to the evil we're seeing from the left, from the neocons, from the Zionists, all of them.
The neocons they're losing control. The Zionists are losing control quickly. The leftists are crazy. They've been crazy. They started losing everybody after 2016 when they started doing gender ideology. But what are we doing here? Are we going to continue with democracy and just trust these people? Whenever they get power again, they're not going to kill us all. I mean, what can we do here? I know we say fight the good fight. Let's stay nonviolent. It's what Christ would have wanted. I think at a certain point, it's self-defense for us to just like protect ourselves from these events unfolding. I mean, one thing I saw out there a lot, which is kind of funny to me, people were posting this stupid ass pie chart that was like, yeah, all, if not most, if not all of the terrorist extremist linked events from 2013 to 2022 were right-wing extremists. And so one thing that our friend Howling Mutant pointed out was that this is an ADL analysis. The ADL is obviously it's a Jewish thing. And it was founded to protect a guy named Leo Frank who raped a girl at work. She was 13 and he murdered her. And so whenever they tried to get him, he blamed it on a black guy that was over there at work with him. This was in 1913. So the ADL was founded to back him up. And so when he pinned it on this black guy, even the most racist of the Southerners back then in 1913 didn't believe him, still hung him. And to this day, the ADL denies that he did it. And they say he's vindicated. He's a martyr. So what I'm trying to say is this data coming out about right-wing extremism is totally false. It's total bullshit. And just think about it. Like they tried to pin the transgender girlfriend shooter on the right wing. They tried to do that for a while and then denied trying. But these people are irrational. I don't think they can be allowed to exist in our society anymore. I think it's gone too far. The people there, they don't just want Charlie Kirk dead. They're not gonna just stop celebrating. They want Trump dead. They want everybody dead. They want you dead. They literally want you dead. So I don't know what we're supposed to do with these people. We can pray all we want. We can say Jesus is coming back. We can offer them Jesus into their hearts, and they're not going to take it. So I'm confused. We need a right-wing leader to step up into the frame and give us a path forward.
Yeah, the only option is not violence. I think you have it mistaken. We're not just going to sit back and pray and let them take over the world. I'm saying we're standing the fuck up and making them the fringe that they are. We're going to make it so that they should be ashamed to proclaim the evil that they proclaim every single day. We should make it so that it's impossible for them to get a job and succeed in common society. We should make it so that they will never earn a dime in this country carrying out fucking evil actions and evil beliefs. And we do that by utilizing the federal government that we just won over in a landslide. And we use the full power of the executive branch to eradicate these people from common society, to eliminate affirmative action, and to instill morality back into our country, to put the bad guys behind bars, to put Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and the Podestas and all of them, the entire cabal, and all the Joint Chiefs of Staff from the neocon Bush era, all of them behind bars, everything exposed, every tragedy that they have covered up for the past century. It all needs to be exposed. All the bad guys that are still alive need to be put in jail. And while we're using the full power of the federal government, we, the people who are the true power of America, the free state that is America, we need to get involved. We don't just tweet on burner accounts and talk to our friends and go to church silently. No, we take over. We take the power back from the scumbag purple-haired fucks that run our school board meetings, from the guys wearing dresses that are running for mayor and city council. We take that shit back from all the scumbags in their chief DEI officer positions. We oppose that. Donald Trump is going to make it illegal for those positions to exist. And it's our job to back them up on the ground, regardless of who's in power. Even if Joe Biden was still in power, Barack Obama, guess what? He can't stop all of us. There are so many more good Americans, Christians, conservatives, common sense people. Let's no more labels, just normal common sense people with a soul. There are so many more of us than the bad guys, than the people in power, than the donor class. If there's hundreds of us and there's 3 quadruple billionaires standing across from each other on a battlefield, who's going to win? These guys haven't touched a weight in their lives. They have sex with robots and they worship Satan. We're all jacked. We drink raw milk. We do pull-ups, and we're going to beat the fuck out of them because we pound ass. We pound normal ass, not robot ass. That is why we have power over the powerful. And if we remain optimistic and keep what first? Jesus Christ first, we will be shielded by his power. And there's nothing that these satanic antichrist forces can do that we can't overcome. But we have to be ballsy. We have to be radical, and we have to take it back. We don't sit back and wait for Jesus to come back. That is not what Jesus commanded us to do. We got to take fucking action. That's why I'm sick and tired of sitting around and waiting for the opportunity. Us at the Nimrod Pod have a fucking duty, and step 1 is getting the fucking message out. And that's why we come here every week. Every single fucking week. We take time to research, to prepare, so we can proclaim the truth, because somebody's got to do it. And then outside of this podcast, we're talking to everyone in our daily life, everyone at work, all of our family members, all of our friends, random people we meet on the street, and we're telling them the truth. If the truth's out there, all these lies mean nothing. When Barack Obama gets on stage the other night and condones the murder of Charlie Kirk and calls him a bad guy, nobody buys that shit. Nobody. When Jimmy Kimmel gets on his show and says that Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about Charlie Kirk and that it was MAGA that killed Charlie Kirk, nobody believes that shit because nobody's watching, because everyone knows the truth. Everyone knows he's a liar. We have to continue to proclaim the truth unashamedly. We need to take over every business, every community, every neighborhood. We got to take over this whole fucking country so that these radical ideologies, these lies, these cover-ups, nobody bats an eye at them. Nobody. That is true power. It's not violence. Now, here's the thing. There's a difference between offensive violence and defensive violence. If they really do enact this Podesta plan and all the blue states and cities secede, and it becomes a battle, then you better be fucking ready. I'll take us over them any day of the week, though. But we have to have that mindset that it could happen at any moment. But we're not going to allow it to happen because we're the adults in the room. Daddy is home. Christ is king, and he's not going to let this shit happen by spreading his message through us, and it's our duty to carry it out. We have free will. It's our choice, but he has commanded us to act. So we have to act.
I'm ready to act. I'm ready for this shit to get real.
Rally the troops.
Shit needs to get real expeditiously. We've gone on far too long tiptoeing around the fucking tulips. And we've underwent far too many lies. I could see it unraveling in real time. You need to protect yourself for the next however long. You know, Trump needs to beef up his security. Like we used to say, Elon needs to beef up his security. All the main talkers, all the big talkers, they need to beef it up. Because this is like I was saying, the death throes of these dying old neocon Zionists. They're like trying to stay in power, trying not to go to prison, and trying to keep their world hegemony together. So watch out. People are crazy.
And your First Amendment right isn't going anywhere. Freedom of speech is still a thing, but actions have consequences. And if you're going to be in the medical field or the education system and You're going to let your political beliefs get in the way of your important job? You're a danger to society. You need to get the fuck out. You need to pick a side in terms of, do I really want to be in this job and help society, help the world I live in, or do I want to let my stupid liberal opinion spread through my actual job, distracting me from what I'm actually doing in such an important role, such a crucial role for society in general? I mean, this was the bare minimum. The bare minimum was these companies and these big corporations actually canning these people. Say whatever the fuck you want. If I said the N-word, if I said the N-word at the top of my fucking lungs in public or something like that, and my fucking employer saw that, freedom of speech, right? Not the same.
It should be freedom of speech. Are you saying it to someone derogatorily? It actually doesn't matter because it's a word. They're literally noises that come out of our mouths. They're noises that we decided would go together in this order to convey a message. Let's stop worrying about words, artificial manufactured words, and let's start thinking about intent. We get on here, we just talk for 2 hours straight. Alex Jones gets on and speaks for 4 hours straight every single day. They're just words. He's trying to convey a message. Don't take every single word literally. Focus on the intent. What does Alex Jones want to do? He wants to save humanity. He wants to make the world a better place. He doesn't care if he dies trying. He is a good man. He believes in Christ. But the medium paints him out to be some sort of murderer that pisses on the graves of children. That's fucking horseshit. Stop taking words literally. Focus on the intent. Because at the end of the day, we're not judged for the sins of our relatives or the people in our community or our ancestors. We're judged on our own actions. And only one thing judges us. One being judges us, and that is God. Something that supersedes beings. A true power. Spiritual power that we will never be able to understand. In that vein, let's talk about cancel culture. Jimmy Kimmel just had a show canceled today, and the left is proclaiming this to be a violation of free speech, a violation of the First Amendment. This is cancel culture from the people that have been bitching about cancel culture for the past 2 decades. And now we have Attorney General Pam Bondi saying that there's free speech and there's hate speech, and we don't tolerate hate speech. She's not helping our case. But she received such a visceral reaction from the people that she rescinded her statements immediately, but no one's talking about it. People don't realize that she is a Barbie doll that Trump throws in front of cameras all day long just to yap, 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 and look pretty so that the men in the room can go to work. I'm not saying she's incompetent. She's just slightly mentally incapacitated. Some may call it retarded. And as brave white Christian nationalists, we should be saying the R word, retarded, because that is brave. That is true courage. So I will say to Pam Bondi, there is no sentence that Charlie Kirk would have objected to more than there's free speech and there's hate speech, and we won't tolerate hate speech. That's horseshit. And shame on you, Pam Bondi. But here's the thing. What we're going to do is not go cancel people for having a political belief. The difference here is there's political beliefs and then there's spiritual beliefs, spiritual battles. And what these people are pushing is satanic ideology, condoning the public assassination of a man in the middle of a college campus in front of a bunch of children. That is evil. That is satanic. And if I was an employer, I wouldn't want someone working for me who was okay with murdering people and who was encouraging people to be violent. I don't want violent people, murderers, pedophiles, crazy people working for me. I don't want criminals working for me. So there is a difference between political beliefs and then spiritual beliefs, right? And how we address this is we start naming and shaming these people, and we spotlight them. The difference between the cancel culture of the left and what we're going to do to them now is that we're just going to proclaim the truth out loud. When they try to tell us that it's okay to kill people because they're saying the wrong thing. We say you are condoning murder and you're inciting violence, and that's a crime, and you're going to jail, and bare minimum, you're blacklisted from corporate America and common society. Nobody will accept you here. Bare minimum. What they've been doing is they've been calling us fascists and Nazis and misogynists and racists and homophobes and transphobes and all these things that aren't true. You're murdering people. They tell us that we're killers and Trump's going to round all of you guys up and separate families and kill them, these immigrants. That's not true. Now, when we say they are evil and satanic, child sacrificers, that is truth. They have a right to say things, but it is our duty to say it how it is and normalize the truth. That is the difference here, guys. So let's get back to Jimmy Kimmel. He isn't being canceled for his political beliefs. This isn't a free speech violation. The truth is, he falsely blamed the killing of Charlie Kirk on MAGA. He knew that wasn't the truth. He is paid and incentivized to push a narrative, to trick people. But good thing no one watches this fucking show. His show costs hundreds of millions of dollars in operating costs annually, and he makes $50 million a year. He gets maybe 2 to 3 million viewers, which is 1/25th what Gutfeld gets every night, and 1/100th of what any independent conservative media outlet does. Tucker Carlson, hundreds of millions on an interview. Alex Jones, 500,000 live on one streaming platform. Meanwhile, he's on 10 different streaming platforms. Multiply that 500,000 times 10, you're at 5 million. Jimmy Kimmel was bleeding money. So is Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert lost his job because USAID got their funding cut. What were they funding? Propaganda, including explicitly Stephen Colbert's Late Show. The money's gone. They can't fund that machine anymore. So they got to get rid of them because nobody's watching. They're not profitable. And ABC just found an excuse to fire Jimmy Kimmel, free up some more money for Disney. And that's exactly what they did. Do you guys disagree with me? Or was this a true violation of free speech that we should be concerned about?
No, Lou, so I have some nuanced thoughts about this. I, for one, think that if somebody's going to round up some things you say and send it to your employer, they can fire you if they want. They can fire anybody for any reason. And so that's the right that they reserve. And that's a right that you forego whenever you are employed somewhere. You can be fired, right? If they don't like you. So I don't think that's a problem. And I also think that whatever Jimmy Kimmel said or whatever Stephen Colbert said, they're calling people Nazis. They're saying MAGA killed Charlie Kirk. I mean, it's not like the most egregious threats of violence or anything. Some could construe it as like they're putting targets on people. But I think the real reason their shows got canceled is because nobody was fucking watching them, right? Like nobody watches Colbert. Nobody even watches TV anymore. So what do you expect them to buy a cable plan for $150 a month just to watch this bullshit? No, they're not doing it. So I think they went down because nobody watches it. If it was profitable, they had kept him on the air. They would have let him say whatever he wanted. And cutting the funding to it from the government is a great idea because funding state propaganda is not what we need to be doing. We need to fund the well-being of our nation. So not really a free speech problem in my mind. Pam Bondi, though, she kind of took the same tagline as Tim Walz in the last election cycle. Said free speech does not include hate speech. And that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I mean, you can see like the diehard MAGA, they'll go along with it. They flock into herd like sheep. The diehard boomer neocon MAGA Trump supporters are flocking in and saying, yeah, you can't say that shit. You can't say any of that. Or you deserve to be in prison. Or we're deporting them. But it's a slippery slope for us. We need to protect the First Amendment because the first thing they're going to do if they're ever able to pass a law about hate speech is turn it on anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism, as we know, means any criticism of any Jew or any action of the state of Israel. So that's what they're going to use it for. They're going to shut it down 1984 style so that people can go to jail for being anti-Semitic. So we need to protect the First Amendment. Pam Bondi, honestly, she just needs to just leave. She needs to fucking leave. Like resign, get off the Prozac, and go home to your family. And like go into the elderly folks' home. You are retarded, Pam. And what you said is completely incorrect. I doubt that reflects the views of this administration at all. Whoever told her to say that is probably also retarded. So let's just get her ass out of here. She's betrayed us enough. But yeah, protect First Amendment, except for, like threats, actual threats of violence. We can't have that. And that's how it's always been. Let people lose their fucking shows. Let people lose their jobs. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, there's a reason Israel has a spotlight on themselves. It's because they put it there. And in the wake of Charlie's assassination, in the time since September 10th, legislation has been passed that enforces anti-boycott laws. And just days after Charlie's death, the entire congressional body is in Israel, wearing those little funny hats, touching the wall, sobbing their eyes out, getting blackmailed. So, yeah, that's why people point the finger at Israel, because they won't stop talking about Charlie Kirk, and because they're passing laws in our country to give them preferential treatment. Trump is striking down affirmative action, which makes it so that you are now protected and treated equally. And it doesn't matter what you look like or where you came from or what you believe in. All that matters are your actions and your performance and the content of your character. Are you good or you're bad? Not, you said something problematic. No, you said a lie and you're violent and you're inciting violence and you're evil. Those are different things. And our job is to shame people so that the government doesn't have to get involved. Trump's job is to instill morality back into our country so that people would be ashamed to say such lies in public. We don't need laws. There's a First Amendment for a reason. You can say whatever the fuck you want, and it can offend the shit out of me. But when you go to a private company and you lie while representing that company, they have a right to get rid of you. And it's Trump's job to put in the framework so that people want to do good. They want to be good people. And this free speech thing, it needs to transcend laws so that no matter who gets in power next, there are still these moral boundaries, these guardrails that keep us from going out of bounds. And we don't need laws to do that, guys.
I'll say this. There's a difference between canceling and spreading misinformation. And Jimmy Kimmel didn't get canceled. He's not canceled. The show's gone. They canceled the show. The show that had 200 viewers per night.
What are you saying, though? Spreading misinformation is legal. I could spread all the misinformation I fucking want.
ABC has lost enough money on that motherfucker that they're probably like, fuck this dude. We've had enough.
Good.
And they can spread all the misinformation they want, but the government's not going to cover it anymore. The government's not going to incentivize it anymore. So they're on their own little island, and they have to rely on what? Real money from private donors that didn't launder it. And that's where there's a problem. That's why we need to tear down this establishment so that you can't fund these propaganda machines. If George Soros wants to fund it, he can, but guess what? He's getting all of his money fucking cut off. He's been our biggest problem on the ground. He's been our biggest problem in the media. And now we're really going to take him out. That's why they are enacting the Podesta plan. That's why they're trying to ensue chaos in America.
Goddamn right, Lou. Goddamn right. What else we got on the docket?
Let's talk about Charlie Kirk. We've been talking about him the whole time. But let's talk about this power struggle Charlie Kirk was having with his donors. It was made abundantly clear in the months leading up to his assassination that he believed that the war on terror had been a net loss for the United States, and he did not want to see it happen again. And his donors had a problem with that. Bill Ackman had a problem with it. Seth Dillon had a problem with it. Bibi Netanyahu had a problem with it. They reamed him. They screamed at him. They threatened to take his money away, and they did. They told him to take their names off of the TPUSA buildings. And the week of his death, they pulled away millions of dollars of funding. And Bibi Netanyahu was called in, the big guns, after a fiery confrontation with Bill Ackman. And Bibi Netanyahu said, I will inject TPUSA with $150 million. Their annual budget is $150 million. So I'm going to double the size of your already massive NGO that is thriving on its own without any interference. All you have to do is be a talking head for Israel, and you need to push Zionist ideology. And you know what Charlie did? He said no. And we know this because he was unashamedly proclaiming his concerns on PBD, on Megyn Kelly, on Tucker's show, in private, at these TPUSA events, like the Student Action Committee, when he had Dave Smith debating, a guy from Newsweek who was a known Zionist puppet, destroyed him publicly on the TPUSA platform with the Zionist funding, the Zionist backing. He had Tucker on stage to give a massive speech where he claimed that Epstein was an asset of Mossad and the Israeli intelligence apparatus. He had Tucker come on stage and say that war with Iran is a net loss for our country. And behind the curtains, Charlie looked at Tucker and said, go all the way. Go all the way. Don't worry about getting me in trouble. You go all the way because what you're saying is the truth. And I'm pro-life, whether that baby is in the womb or if it's children in Gaza. I'm pro-life, and I don't think I should be supporting the murder of innocents. And then Charlie dies, and all we hear are Zionists proclaiming how he's one of them. He supported everything we were doing. And what you need to do now is you need to get behind Israel. I'm not saying that Israel killed Charlie Kirk, but they have injected themselves into the center of the story. And I keep finding their fingerprints all over it, guys. What have you noticed?
He was killed at the top of a fucking menorah on the ground. For God's sake, in the aerial view, it's a menorah. It's literally the exact shape of a menorah, but not something I'm concerned about. You know, you can draw the pentagram where he was seated in the middle of it. I don't think it's very concerning. I do think that there was a motive there. At first, I didn't know. You know, he was a moderate voice. It could be some crazy tranny that just shot him for no, like, just because, you know, he sowed hate or he was a fascist or whatever. But the Israel thing seems a lot more likely for me. Right before he died, you know, he was beginning to question. He said about October 7th, he was like, was there a stand down order? Because Israel's so small and they're patrolling the streets at all times. How did the Palestinians get in there and rape all those people? So he started asking questions like that. He started asking questions about Israel's involvement in our politics. And I think that's where they draw the line. So all those reports from Candace about him getting hammered at his meeting with his Israeli donors, him refusing the money, that to me is more of a smoking gun than anything else I've seen. I think that they were definitely a good candidate, you know, thus a suspect, and we should investigate them, you know. It doesn't have to be that we say they killed him. We don't have to say that yet, but we just look at the evidence. You know, who's this kid? Was he the guy that shot him? Why did the bullet come from the back if he was the one that shot him? And who really did it? Why was there a window open back there? Was there multiple shooters? I don't know. But I want to find out. I want James O'Keefe in there. I want Alex Jones in there. I want Ian Carroll in there. I want the answer. We're going to find the answer just like they did with the Vegas shooting years later.
We are. We're going to know the truth in due time. And I kind of want to just add that I do believe that Charlie Kirk stumbled in to the Zionist cult. I think he was a true America First Christian who wanted to have a platform and talk to people. And when he was coming up, he was approached by people with money that were allowing him to talk about Christ and his ideas about abortion and LGBTQ rights and like an alternative view to the mainstream narrative. And they were going to pay him to do it. There's just one caveat. You have to support Israel. I mean, in the Bible, Like, God does have a plan for ethnic Israel. And I think Charlie Kirk believed that. And he had no problem doing what they asked because it didn't conflict with his beliefs. But over time, they've gotten aggressive. And they've started to separate this ethnic Israel idea in Bibi Netanyahu's secular government. The Bible says nothing about supporting a government that was created in 1948 because the Bible was created centuries and centuries before 1948. And that's foolish. And Charlie was coming around to that. Charlie Kirk was a populist above all else. Like, Cenk Uygur was on Tucker Carlson's stream this week, and he said that him and Charlie agreed on banning private equity firms from buying middle-income housing and turning all of us into renters. The average Joe is getting screwed, and it's fueling a populist revolution that Charlie was a part of, and that people on the left and the right can agree on. Charlie wasn't just, some neocon. He was a conservative populist. And I'm actually ashamed that I didn't appreciate him over these past couple of years. We all know Charlie Kirk, especially the first 2 times Trump ran. You'd see his videos and you'd be like, holy shit, no one else is talking like this in public. Like, he has balls. But then I see how he alienates people who oppose the secular government of Israel, and I just tune him out. But then you go back to the past couple of months of content and the Student Action Committee with Turning Point USA and all the interviews he's been doing over the past few months, and he's one of us. And I am ashamed for alienating him for so long. I don't know if you. I know none of us were big Charlie Kirk guys, but this whole thing shook us all to the core.
Absolutely. So like I saw over the past however long, 2 weeks, 1 week, Nick Fuentes, everybody who was like Charlie's a dumbass for defending Israel this long. Everybody's shaken up. Everybody recognizes that there's an evil force out there that is a force to be reckoned with for sure. And so the time is now to sort of find the right path to go. Obviously, it's Christianity. Obviously, it's not unbridled support for Israel and sending them all of our tax dollars. Obviously, it's not anti-boycott laws. But we need to stand up for it right now because everybody saw them, or not everybody saw them, but they kind of snuck those laws through about anti-boycott, and they're trying more laws that are similar to that, where they prohibit people from being anti-Israel. That needs to stop right now. That needs to stop today. This is important. If we don't have freedom of speech in this country, Donald Trump isn't going to save us. He might be bought. We're still not clear. He might be defending the Epstein list, but this is the time for the right to unite. And if they're not gonna unite, if the neocons and the Zionists aren't going to unite, then get rid of them. They're not part of this. They're not part of this movement anymore. I say most of the audience of Charlie Kirk, after he got shot, is moving towards the Fuentes route. They're not going back. They're not going liberal. They're not moving left. They're moving right because they know it's the truth now, right? The left is coming after people in the middle. We have the momentum. We have a lot of momentum. Everybody out there get hopeful, and just keep pounding away on the keyboards. Keep telling Trump what we think, and sooner rather than later, it's going to be super socially acceptable to be a right-wing person. You're not going to be ostracized by a university. They're not going to be in control of all the local governments. They're not going to own all the radio stations. So eventually we're going to have control. And when we do, when we really do have control, not just executive and legislative, think about what we got to do. Think about what we have to do to solidify this country, make sure we get back to our 1776 values before the libs get back in power, which they inevitably will.
And out of the gates, the day after Charlie was assassinated, as I'm sitting there watching Nick Fuentes' powerful address to his supporters and really the whole nation, I was totally convinced that this was the turning point that would truly unite the right. Like, we would put aside our thoughts on Israel-Palestine because guess what? It's not that important. And this is a battle of left versus right. and we need to come together and take out the bad guys. But Israel injects themselves right into the middle of it. It's like they're incriminating themselves. But why is that? Because it's not about left and right. They are illuminating themselves as evil. All the evil in the world is putting their hands up in the air and saying, me, 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 come and get me. And I'm now learning that we don't need something to unite the right. We literally, like, God is giving us an opportunity to eradicate everything that goes against his will. All evil is showing itself right now. And the Zionists are included in that evil. I would have said they could come in with us and fight those lunatic leftists that killed Charlie for no reason. Clearly, they are volatile and they're fringe, and we need to get rid of them. We need to squeeze them out. I totally thought that, but that's not the case. This is the spiritual battle, and it was naive of me to assume that this was political, that it was left and right. That's the real kicker here, guys.
Good point. Do we want to talk a little bit about the rest of the world? This is sort of about Charlie. Tommy Robinson, you might like him, you might not, but they got a ton of people out in the streets in the UK. They're honoring Charlie. They're standing up to left-wing violence. They're standing up to Israel. They're standing up to the New World Order, the hyper immigration ideas. They're standing up to the Great Replacement, basically. And so if you look at all the immigration statistics, it's absolutely awful. But the UK is finally awake, which I'm super happy about. I've been waiting so long for this. And this is the first time we get to see people actually revolt against their government betraying them, basically. One stat that I wanted to show to the people here, because you guys know I hate the immigrants. All you Nimrods out there, you agree with me, but Canada imported 36% of its population in the last 10 years. Think about that, right? Think about that. 1/3 of Canadians moved there in the last 10 years. Most of them were refugees. Most of them are Indian. Most of them are Muslim. And so now they're basically taking over. They're replacing them. They're replacing them. Seeing these people over there stand up to the same group of people at the top, the donor class that is sponsoring the immigration. They're sponsoring the propaganda. They're sponsoring calling Charlie Kirk a Nazi so people shoot him. These people are losing it. They're losing the reins quickly. And it's because of people like us over here at the Nimrod Pod and all of you loyal listeners out there that the tides are finally turning. It was only a matter of time. There's too many people with common sense. There's too many people with balls on our side, and there's too many people with no balls on the other side, with fake axe wounds for vaginas on the other side. And they do want you dead. They want your kids brainwashed and raped. And they want you dead. And they want your kids dead too. And they think it's funny. So you see all the evil people on TikTok saying, yeah, we're smoking Charlie Pack just because they're desensitized and they're fucking retards. It's time for us to stand up for the truth. It's time for these people to learn that there's a silent majority that has been left that hasn't been left alone for far too long. All people wanted was to be left alone, and it's not happening. The UK is finally standing up. Canada's next, and the United States is the last stronghold for you can say it however you want. Christian lifestyle, white people, white countries. This is the turning point here. No pun intended, but I have a lot of hope. Let's go, Lou. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, they were reaching a boiling point in the UK. They're reaching one in Canada. They're reaching one in Asia and the rest of the EU. But when Charlie Kirk died, when he was assassinated, he didn't just die, he was assassinated. He was struck down by an assassin's bullet. When he was assassinated, that was the turning point. It went from a boiling point to a turning point, and that demonstration with Tommy Robinson in the UK would not have been what it was if it hadn't had been in the midst of the grief that the entire world felt for Charlie Kirk. And I truly believe the timing was not a mistake. Everything happens for a reason. A lot of people shy away from the Christian faith because they say, why do good people die? Well, there's a thing called free will, And God gives us these two hands to love him and spread the gospel. You could choose to ball up a fist and punch someone in the face. And there is evil in this world that chose to pick up a gun and blow a guy's brains out in front of a bunch of children. Like publicly assassinating someone in the middle of a college campus is demonic. Flying planes into the side of buildings is demonic. So add this to the list of things we'll never get answers on unless we act. The American people need to step up. I mean, the assassinations of JFK, RFK, MLK, Malcolm X happened 60 plus years ago, and we don't have answers. We just had the 24th anniversary of 9/11, and the truth still isn't out. The files haven't been released. Hell, Donald Trump had 2 assassination attempts on his life, and we're told that both these guys have no internet record and their houses were scrubbed clean, and we're not going to give you an explanation. They were just lone gunmen. And let's not forget, Jeffrey Epstein's child sex trafficking pedophile blackmail ring is the biggest sticking point for the people we elected to public office. Why is that? Because it's demonic. So us at the Nimrod Pod are going to spend a lot more time revealing the truth to you, debunking lies, because it's our turn to step up and take action. That's what Jesus commanded us to do, and we're going to do it. So in the coming weeks, you're going to see a massive deep dive on what really happened with 9/11. You're going to see an amazing interview with an established medical professional that is going to take us through the amazing developments that RFK, with RFK and the HHS, because what he is doing is saving humanity, and it's our job to uplift it because he has been met with a massive force of resistance. And the only thing that can get him over the edge is the support of the American people. So we're going to do that. We have a duty, bare minimum, to spread the truth. We invite you to join us. Any final words, gentlemen?
All the Nimrods out there, you have to join us. You have to join us. We need to proclaim the truth. We need to get these people out. We need to get them out. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Just give in. Just give in to what you know is true. We need to get them out. What's it going to take? What's it going to take, Nimrods, before you start speaking up? What's it going to take? How far does the Zionist movement have to take it? How many more kids do they have to kill? Do they need to ethnically cleanse the entire Middle East? Should we do that? But do they need to before you start speaking up? This is the time, man. They've betrayed us enough. Trump has betrayed us enough. We need to speak up for what we want as a country. There's too many people that are like us. I go to fucking college town. I go to a college town, and the younger guys in one of the fraternities there are saying they're all watching Fuentes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on out here? I go on a trip with my buddies, and they're all talking about Fuentes. We're all talking about politics, talking about Israel. Everybody's the same. Everybody's the same everywhere in the country. Everybody knows this. So recognize that. This is a community this isn't a far right thing. This is a normal right-wing movement. This is a normal, but not even right-wing. This is a centrist movement.
It is time for us to step up to the plate. Evil is illuminating itself. Evil is picking a fight with us. It is pointing its finger in our sternum and saying, what are you going to do? So you know what? Satan, if you want to fight, you got one. The answer to 1984 is 1776. And Satan is about to feel the full wrath of not just the greatest nation in world history. He's about to feel the wrath of humanity, the wrath of Jesus Christ Almighty, the one true God. God bless you guys. God bless America. God bless Jesus Christ. And have an amazing week. Step up to the plate. Get involved. It's time to take not just our country, but our world back.
Nimrods out.